History, Kevin. It's 7 o'clock. We will call to order the City of Brainerd Personnel and Finance Committee meeting for March 21st, 2022, and we'll start with introductions.
Tiffany Stingline, Ward 3.
Jennifer Bergman, City Administrator.
Connie Hillman, City Finance Director.
Alderman at Large Kevin Stunek, and I'm here.
David O'Brien, Community Action.
Deanne Berry, the Center. Kathy Tusa, the Center.
Paul Welch, the Center.
Jess Bode, Via Pal.
Brian Pike, Northern Arboretum.
Candace Zimmerman, Northland Arboretum.
Gabe Johnson, Chair of the Committee. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight. The first one is to approve a memorandum of agreement regarding effective date for the 2021 IUOE Central Pension Fund.
I'll take it since Chris is gone. So the 49ers, the streets, and the parks wanted to increase their contribution to the Central Pension Fund effective January 1st, 2020. The union contract was not signed until March, and we did not change the deduction until April. The first payroll's in April. And so this MOA is just adjusting the contract for what we actually did back in March, April of 2020.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve that MOA.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the attached MOAs between the City of Brainerd and IUOE Local Number 49 to amend the 2021-22 union contracts, which corrects the effective date to the first payroll in April 2021 for the increased 2021 Central Pension Fund contribution for its members.
Second, I had the wrong years when I was explaining it, I apologize.
We have a motion and a second. The motion is the correct years?
Yes.
All right, so we have the correct motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the consider proposals for chartered contribution organizations. Jennifer.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The council amended the charter in 2021, which changed the language of the contributions to fund the organizations that are laid out in the charter. Instead of referencing specific organizations, the Charter Commission recommended that we go to more generic language, similar to what the language was in the charter for senior. The charter language says senior organizations or programs for senior citizens. They also amended the language, or recommended amending the language for the Arboretum to say an Arboretum or green space, and then the Brainerd Community Action to say community action or events. That ordinance was approved by the council, and then the council did form a subcommittee to review requests for proposals. Councilman Stunek and Councilman Erickson were on that subcommittee, made a recommendation to the council for those requests for proposals, and those were approved at the February 7th City Council meeting. And then the RFP was released on February 8th with proposals due for each one of those categories on March 10th. The city received 1 proposal for Arboretum and green space, and that was from Northland Arboretum. 1 proposal for events and community action programs, and that was from Brainerd Community Action. And then we received 2 proposals for senior citizen programs or organizations, 1 from the center and 1 from Via Pal. Those proposals are attached or included in your packet, and our recommendation is to discuss those proposals and then make a recommendation for funding to the council.
Okay, so I think here we're going to just do this by the 3 different classifications. The one I'd like to start with is the Arboretum, because I'm confused on the charter, which the charter has more power than the city council does. We can't decide, no, we're not going to levy this money, we don't feel like it. The charter says we must. And it said, for the Arboretum, it says there shall be a levy of 1.5% of the previous year's total city levy for an Arboretum or green space organization within the city limits of Brainerd. I would like to send this Arboretum proposal to the Charter Commission to see if that is in the city limits of Brainerd. Because I think their proposal said something like we'd just be funding their visitor and wedding event center over at Baxter. And I don't think that's in the city of Brainerd, but I'm not going to make that call. We have the full Charter Commission intact who made this language change, and let's just see what they say and maybe address that one.
Since
after
they're the
next charter
governing
meeting.
body, that makes total sense to me.
Okay,
At least to
good.
clarify that.
Yeah, just get that clarification from the Charter Commission. Okay, that motion.
Okay, I make a motion, we send the Arboretum proposal back to the Charter Commission to get clarification on the boundaries of Baxter and Brainerd on where they're at.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up, let's go to the other one that didn't have a competing proposal, and that'd be the community action programming. Any discussion or motion on that?
If it was up to me, I'd make a motion, we keep the funding the same for community action as we go forward with the 5-year contract.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to fund Brainerd Community Action on a 5-year contract. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Then that brings us to the proposals for the senior programming in the city of Brainerd. And we have the senior center, or the center that isn't just seniors, and the APAL. They both submitted their proposals. I trust we all read the proposals. Are there any questions or comments, Tiffany?
I'm a little concerned, so Be a Pal is fairly new and just getting going, and I'm not entirely sure that that is where this is best spent at this point.
I would agree with that.
So
I totally support the program, I think it's a good program, but it's just getting its feet wet. And I think we need some groundwork and we need some history here to be able to start giving money away, in my opinion.
So with that, I will move that we allocate the funding to the center for a 5-year contract.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second, and my question is, they didn't ask for a specific amount of funding, so what is it that we're allocating? We did check with the attorney, we shall levy 1.5%, it doesn't say we shall spend 1.5%. So is the motion is spending the 1.5%?
The 1.5%, yes.
I would like, I mean, if there's discussion, I would like to see us, if we could, and I don't know if we can legally, keep this funding at the center the same as it is today, which would probably be a pinch more than the 1.5.
We can't legally fund nonprofits outside of charter. Okay, any discussion?
No, oh, did we get a second? Did I second that?
You
Yeah,
seconded
we have a
my
motion and a second.
Yeah.
I clarified that it was for the full 1.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no. I like the center. They're not a senior activity program, they also just want us to fund their building. But I looked at their website and their membership dues are $20. We've got 14,400 people in Brainerd, 17% of those are senior citizens. So if we paid membership dues for everybody in the city of Brainerd, every senior in the city of Brainerd, it would be about $50,000. And I think that would be a reasonable expenditure. But I just don't like supporting the buildings that other people bought and they overbought their buildings and now they're expecting the Brainerd taxpayers to fund it. So I would support 50,000, I can't support spending 100,000 at the center, so I wouldn't vote no. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the discussion of the implementation of the street lighting policy.
Mr. Chair,
Yep,
may I go back to the other items? Just for clarification. Our plan is to have agreements on the April 4th agenda, then both for Brainerd Community Action and for the center. As Councilman Stunek mentioned, the subcommittee recommended a 5-year agreement. So my plan is to have.
both of the motions, if you heard the motions, both recommended 5-year agreements,
Perfect.
yes.
Those will be on the April 4th
Yep.
agenda. Thank you.
Discussion of implementation of the street light policy. Paul is upstairs in his meeting. Connie, you're gonna take this?
Yes, so if you recall at the February 22nd meeting, the city council directed the implementation of the newly adopted street policy to the P&F committee. Just to give you a little background, historically BPU has purchased the lights and then they amortize it over the life of the lights, and it's actually added to the city's bill, so it's actually an increase in our operating expense, not a capital expense to the city. We did do an analysis on this. I'll back up here. The staff met, city and BPU got together and met about how we implement this. And really what the bottom line came to is that we kind of have to do it based on a construction, or staff's recommendation was to do it based on construction year rather than trying to do it all at one time. Number one, BPU doesn't have the capacity to be able to do it all at one time. And it's not just taking out an old light pole and putting in a new light pole. It can be changing the conduit if it needs to be done. There's talk about maybe moving it where it was, where it runs now, versus moving it in a little bit off the street. So there was all kinds of discussion on how we might have the directional drill. In the end, it's staff's recommendation to implement it as we are reconstructing the streets. It's going to take several years to do that. We did an analysis, and we think it would be about 30 years in order to replace all the neighborhood lights in the city.
And then we can start over.
And then the city council then can pick a new light.
And that
We'll
just-
have 3 new lights between
Yeah.
now and then anyway.
And that doesn't include the special lighting districts that we have, such as on Laurel Street, and there's some fancier lights on College Drive as well.
So I met with Connie and Jennifer and they gave me this recommendation and I think it's reasonable ultimately because even if we wanted to do all of the lights next year, it's not physically possible. BPU doesn't have the manpower to just be in there changing streetlights for the whole year.
More
So-
than money.
Correct.
Yeah, or the money.
Yeah.
So I think it's reasonable to implement the streetlight policy while reconstructing streets, but I do think we should go back and check on recent street projects like 6th Street, Oak Street, some of the higher traffic corridors that have been done in the last 10 years, and see if the conduit there is up to date and good, where we'd only need to throw in a new pole as opposed to directional drilling.
They may know that already in their records and in their surveys.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I did speak with BPU and,
I just
Cell
want it part of the
6
motion, because if we just ask for it, we don't get it, we need it to be part of a motion.
Cell 6 Oak Street has updated conduit,
So we could,
yes.
over the next few years, whenever the electric department has the time,
Yes.
work on those.
If we can get the lights and the poles as well for the
Yeah,
summer.
there's a lot of
a lot
supply
of
changes.
ifs.
There's a lot of ifs, but the general direction. So I think the motion I would look for is to implement the streetlight policy when reconstructing a street, in addition to going back and replacing the lights on Oak and 6th that were recently reconstructed.
I'll agree with that. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And did you ask them about redoing the lights on 6th and Oak? I mean,
And-
the conduit's there, do they have the capacity to do that whenever lights come in the next year or two?
Yeah, so there, again, an informal discussion this morning with BPU was they would replace those lights kind of as they have time to do so on the roads where conduit has been updated. In addition to, and they even said Mill Avenue is about 10 years
Oh,
old.
and Mill might be good enough? So if
Mill
I-
might be good,
So if I change the motion upstairs to be high-traffic streets with updated conduit,
Yeah.
let staff determine that, yeah, because Mill Avenue is about the same as Oak.
10
as far as
years
traffic.
old is what they said for
Clarification
now.
is fine.
Yeah,
I'll support that.
all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up is an update on the request of funds to be returned from the Lakes Area Media Collaborative. Connie, have we heard an update on this?
You've got 15 minutes.
We have not.
Oh, no, we have more things, sorry.
We've got nothing else.
No.
That was the final item on the agenda. We do not, we have not heard from the Media Collaborative, but
Imagine that.
I bet we will in the next 2 weeks. With that, we'll adjourn at 7:14 and the meeting is at 7:30 upstairs.